Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we exit double game week 25, a very turbulent double game week, I'm sure you'll agree, Rich, and look ahead to game week 26 and 27 with two deadlines just days apart, as if we haven't had enough exhaustion, Rich, was the word we just used in terms of managing our emotions with the assistant manager chip. My name is Fergi. I'm here with the brilliant Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in double game week 25?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. I got another green eventually, although I was looking at a red until last night's match. Yeah, quite a roller coaster ride. I think I've described this chip as all-consuming in some ways. I think you're on Slot. I'm on Moyes Emery combination. We sound like we've been on opposite tribes for the last 3 weeks, and it certainly seems that way. Very, very swingy, isn't it? You know, I think I recall a moment in the game last night when I owned Trent Alexander-Arnold. He was assisted by my captain, Mo Salah. And when he scored his equalising goal, I ran around the room cursing his soul and uttering expletives. So that is what this chip has done to the game. It's made you curse your own defender scoring assisted by your captain. I mean, that can't be right, can it? That can't be right.
It was nuts because obviously Aston Villa and Ipswich played on the... Was it early on the Sunday or on the Saturday? On the Saturday, wasn't it, I think?
This is what, yeah.
On the Saturday. And I was obviously wanting Ipswich to hold on, and they had the red card. I thought, there's absolutely no chance. I'm really going to batter them. Emery's going to get all sorts of, 3-4 goals, clean sheet, this, that, and the other. And obviously that didn't play out. So I felt incredibly fortunate then. And then on the flip side, I was watching the Liverpool and Wolves match and just seeing, I've never cheered a Liverpool defender so much as when Kwanzaa, I think it was, leapt in like a salmon to stop an equalising goal. It was a fantastic tackle, and as you say, we're watching these games with different lenses from a pure results view rather than an FPL play, goals, assists, clean sheets view, and it was chaos. And then last night, Liverpool took the lead, and come on, here we go. This is what it's all about. To the Emery owners, you've had your luck. Now you're done. And then it just flips around again, doesn't it? And it's absolute chaos. So I was uber pleased. Absolutely. I was the opposite to you, Rich. I had Trent scoring for me, but which salvaged me some slot points and took away from the Emery points. So it was
the swing was massive, and I think it didn't end there, did it? Because Morgan Rogers, right at the end of the game, had that
can you
chance
imagine
to win the match, score his own points, possibly get bonus because he was very good on the night, other than putting away his chances and the win bonus for Villa, that would have been a 20-point swing. Huge. Overall, right at the end of the game. So yeah, this is just a crazy chip. I don't know what you think of it. I hope they take it away, but I think it's here to stay given the amount of conversation it's generated.
James Harding has summed it up really nicely in the chat. He said, "I think Assmanship is Assman." He said point swings too large based on exact 1-goal margins, and that's it, right? That's that 1 goal, as you said. Then that if you're a non-Rodgers owning slot owner, you could have gone down a few hundred thousand your season right there on one shot, which is crazy, but
crazy. Yeah. Anyway, it all ended up all right. 98 points for me, and a decent green. I think you've beaten me. We'll have a look at your team in a minute, but I've up about 100 and something thousand places. So yeah, making a bit of a dent in the top million, and hopefully, we'll keep going. 13 weeks to go. Let's do this. Let's see if we can get top 100k again.
Well played, Squire. I think Rich, I was looking at your rank earlier, and I think you're going to get there. I think a few weeks back when you were 2 million. Well, you were 2 million a few weeks back, weren't you? And I think we were both thinking, is this the end of your 18 season run?
19.
19 season
this is the
run.
19, 19. Yeah.
And I was thinking, but after seeing your rank and whatever else, Rich, I've got a sneaky feeling you're going to get that.
Let's hope so, mate.
We will see. Yep, I did have a good week, 104 points. It was looking better when Liverpool were winning, but I had a nice green from about 420 odd K to 318, so a nice 100k green. Okay. Chris Wood, 9 points. you say? I just can't sell him. I just can't. How can I sell him? He's scoring every week.
The guy is, unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unbelievable. You can't sell him.
And the only other real returner, I had Trent, obviously. I had Utara Dango. I brought in the week before, Blank the week before, but he had 7 points. But yeah, and I had Slot, who ended up with 13. So I'm quite surprised actually to get a hefty green off that. I'm assuming there's a lot of probably dead managers and non-engaged managers who maybe didn't play the Assman chip, so I got an extra 13 there. But yeah, really, really happy actually, and looking good. I've got four free transfers going into this week.
You see, this is the thing. I think regardless of the points, it's not the points I'm jealous of. It's the transfers. And yeah, if we're at opposite extremes. I think we said before we came on. I'm stood at the bus stop, nothing in my pockets, trying to borrow pennies to get on the bus, and you're there just burning £50 notes on the other side of the road,
like this.
You know what I mean? Exactly, in your BMW, just giving it everything, and that's what it feels like. You can do anything you want, and I've literally got to play on rails.
Yeah,
that's how it.
It is, Rich, and it's the complete opposite of the last 19 seasons. Or 18 seasons, because it feels good, because normally you're the one calm and composed and you've got everything in hand, and I'm the one taking a -8 to bring in Huang just to try and salvage something. So but yeah, a decent week, well set as well, and looking forward. I've got a plan. I think I've got a plan for the coming 2 or 3 weeks, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Just despite all those transfers, though, did you not regret not getting Watkins in? Because we had a chat before deadline, and I said if I had your transfers, I would bring Watkins this week. I just didn't have the moves. It would have cost me a -8 to get Watkins, which is why I didn't do it. And I'm sure now, obviously, with retrospect, it's easy to say should have done it. But were you tempted?
Well, if I would have done it, I wouldn't have gone Isaac to him, because I still think Isaac's got a lot to offer over the next few weeks, especially now it looks like we're not wildcarded until 31. So I still think Isak has got a lot to. I still think he's going to score goals, even though the fixtures are a bit harder now. I wouldn't have sold Isak, so that's it. It would have been Wood, and it would have been a double transfer. So I think the fact that I would have sold Wood to Watkins straight away, I probably don't think it's worth using. And that was, if I could have gone straight to Wood, straight from Wood to Watkins, I would have done it in a heartbeat. But the fact he got the 9 points, saved the transfer, saved the 2 transfers, because I would have got in, like a Bournemouth defender potentially. I was looking at Huijsen, right, who obviously didn't have a clean sheet, and I would have sold one of Hall or Robinson or Lewis, who again, Hall has maybe got a part to play for me this week, Robinson next week, and Lewis could even come in and do a job for me in 29 because they just got no defence. So actually, all in all, I think I'm okay. I would have had a big agreement with Watkins, but having this flexibility of the transfers, I think the reason why I'm so thin on saving them, it reminds me of the other formats where you can. I know the benefits of holding these large amounts of transfers back in the other games, so you can completely overhaul your team. Whereas an FPL, because you've only been able to do 2, you can never truly overhaul your team, right? You can maybe do like a big Haaland to Salah switcheroo, but using 3 or 4 at kind of any one time, you can completely reconfigure the shape of your team. You can get in, I can make 3 transfers and bring in 2 top players and a differential punt, for example. So yeah, I think
you're in a good spot. You're in a good spot, Barry.
We'll see. It's all. I mean, it's there. It's there, right? But I think also the reason why I haven't making transfers is because I've got a good team, and Wood and Mbuemo are 2 I've considered selling every single week, and I still might over these weeks. I just don't know yet, but we'll see. But a lot of luck, mate. We know how that goes. Evening to everyone in the chat. Zara is in asking us to talk about captaincy. We will certainly do that. Peter Clinch, my old headmaster. Davis, Chris Woodstock, Mark Clydesdale, Colin Johnson, weekend fixers. Nice to see the dream team back together. Colin asks, stay with Slot or gamble? we will touch on that in a bit.
Touch on that,
James is in, Clear FPL. Kyle Hudson, Vinayak says the best FPL podcast. Thank you so much. And he's also up to 10k. He triple captained Mo Salah for 122 points this week. Well played. Sam Jackson, David said, I felt dirty supporting Liverpool as a Man United fan. He said, I don't mind supporting Salah, but that's a step too far. Michael Taylor says, it all requires way too much planning. FPL should be easy to use and easy to explain. FPL Gaza is in, Kyle Hudson, Big Tips, Cedric Levy, Bales Aru. Great to have you all with us. So the lay of the land, Rich. Obviously, we had some news again on a Friday morning. Goodness me, it's after our pod, which again went out of date incredibly quickly. Do you just want to briefly run through sort of what that means?
I think this one took our community's greatest predictors by surprise. I think, and news being that we now have a additional double game week in game week 32 for Newcastle and Crystal Palace. Newcastle will now have a very nice double, home to Man United and home to Crystal Palace. So there is your triple captain opportunity that you were potentially waiting for. But Crystal Palace will have a much tougher double away to City, away to Newcastle. So maybe not so focused on Palace, but the good thing about both those teams is that they could both double in the following week as well, creating once again a huge assistant manager opportunity for those who perhaps still have that chip. I think I looked last night, something like 53% of people have played the assistant manager chip in the top 1 million spots, which is probably most of the people on this pod. And that still leaves a lot of people with the AM to play. And now, I guess the biggest decision those people face is whether or not they want to play it in game weeks 31 to 33 and take on the people with the bench boosts and triple captains left. That's the next war that appears to be brewing amongst fantasy managers in terms of chip strategy. I think I've summarized that. I think that there is going to be a blank in game week 34. On the diagram there, you'll see those likely blankers. The more crimson, the red, the more likely that team is to blank. However, not many teams will have double fixtures in game week 33 and a fixture in game week 34. So that's where the holding the free hit comes in very handy. If you can actually ride through game week 29, which we will touch on later, then that free hit is going to help you through that difficult period. And again, really, if you are playing the assistant manager chip between game weeks 31 and 34, you've got to remember that you can't activate another chip during that period. So your assistant manager, whilst being hugely opportunistic in terms of points that it could get you, it does stop you playing other chips. So if you go into game weeks 31 to 33 with a full stack of chips, say 4 or 5 chips left, you're going to struggle to spend them all before the end of the season in double game weeks. As we move towards the right of the diagram, things become a lot less certain. I think the fact that the Premier League dropped a fixture into game week 32, which is the second time they've done that, clashing with Champions League fixtures, it just shows they could put a fixture anywhere and really ignore the European competition. So you could see another double go into game week 35, game week 37, but most likely we're going to see another smaller double in game week 36. And that one really depends on the outcomes of the next 2 rounds of FA Cup matches, the first of which will be between game weeks 27 and 28, which will give us more probability about game week 33. And then we'll finally know, I think, the doubles confirmed sometime between game weeks 31 and 30. A wild card in game week 30 may be a bit early for people because you may be shooting in the dark a bit. It might be a bit blind, if that's right.
It is. And the fixtures also for 30 are pretty good for the 28 teams as well, aren't they? There's not that big obvious fixture swing there.
No, I think if you're running through 29 and you're holding Newcastle, Palace assets, etc., they've got good fixtures around game week 29. So we're going to talk about game week 29 in a minute. It doesn't mean a free hit in 29 is is stupid. If your team is loaded up on Palace, Newcastle, Liverpool assets, as many teams are, then a free hit in 29 is very valid, and it will already feel restrictive to you 4 weeks out on what you can do at the moment. So it's just going to be easier to navigate those last 7 weeks if you have the free hit in pocket, I would say.
Indeed. And the next time we'll be podding, actually, because obviously now we're doing the 26 and 27 one because of the midweek deadline. The next time we pod, which will be in 2 weeks' time, we'll know a little bit more, won't we? Because we could have the odd FA Cup surprise, which could make everything a touch clearer, or it could be exactly the same because the way the FA Cup draw, which we went through last week, has come out. Basically all the Prem teams not far off are all home with kind of easiest matches. But we could get an odd shock, which will be interesting, and which could make things clearer. And also our next pod, Rich, is our 200th episode of the Green Arrow, which is pretty insane. So we look forward to that one, which will be our Game Week 28 preview. So let's just have a look at the coming weeks. I've put the range from 26 up to 30 because I think 31, judging by the fact that 32 is now a double game week and things, we're probably going to see a lot of wild cards played in 31. So I've kind of,
I think so,
dead-ended this range up to game week 30. Top of the shop, we've got Wolves. We've got Bournemouth away this week, which is no easy feat. But after that, they do have 4 games. Listen to this for a run of games, Rich. Home to Fulham, home to Everton, away to Southampton in 29, and home to West Ham in game week 30. That is a hell of a run of games. Bournemouth, as we know, have got a superb run. Home to Wolves, away to Brighton, away to Spurs, which both of those defences are a bit suspect at the moment. Home to Brentford and home to Ipswich in 30. Hence the thing about maybe not wildcard in 30, because quite a lot of us at this, at the time we get to 28, we'll probably hold at least one Bournemouth midfield, for example, if not 2, or even a triple up with a defender, for example. Chelsea's fixtures, which we talked about a while ago, again, maybe not so good this week away to Villa. It seems that 26 is not a massively exciting week, but 27 there is this fixture swing where lots of teams have got 3 home games in 4. They're home to Southampton, home to Leicester. I mean, you cannot ask for 2 better fixtures. Cole, Palmer, City going on those 2 weeks, and they're then away to Arsenal, which is obviously a toughie, and then home to Spurs in 30, which it could be any score, right? And Brighton have got a good run too. Right down the bottom, Villa, Newcastle, Liverpool, and Palace are all down the bottom. They've all got toughish fixtures. They all blank in 29, but specifically Liverpool hidden away in all that. Liverpool are home to Southampton in game week 28 and home to Everton in game week 30. So again, it's this whole thing of holding on a wild card and potentially in 31. I just want to ask you, Rich, very briefly. I haven't given it any thought yet. I've seen a bit of content this week around people wildcard in 31 to take on the triple captain and the bench boost in 32 and 33, and trying to do it without Salah. What's your very initial thoughts on that? Because at the moment, to me, it seems absolute madness.
Well, I mean, the guy is. I've playing this game for nearly 20 years. I think this season has been the most consistent performance by a fantasy football asset, or by a Premier League footballer that I have ever seen. I think last night was his 15th or 16th goal and assist combination this season. So that means 2/3 of the time the guy is getting a goal and an assist. So 2 returns per match, max bonus. And you couldn't ask for more solid returns, more consistent performances. He's only blanked 4 times in 25 games.
That is crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I don't think I need to say anything else. It's just absolute. So for people, certainly the people who are saying, "Oh, I can go without Salah for 2 weeks, and I'll get Haaland and I'll captain him," they didn't suffer like I did. On the other side
game week 10, 11, 12, 13.
In game week 6 through 12, and was too slow to get on him, and I'll take the rap for that. That's my fault. But, the stats for Haaland were there, the performances were not, and I'm not going to sell him.
Mate, there's no way
way
in this universe Am
No,
I? Am I?
exactly.
I don't really care who for.
So you enjoy that going tits up for you when you do it. Whoever said it, and we'll see you on the
Because
other side. But
it's
yeah, I mean, I
transfers
think
in
it's
as
mad.
well, right? You're gonna
Yeah,
you're gonna want him back. You're not gonna go without him. The only way
yeah,
he's leaving my team is if he suddenly goes off to a surprise AFCON, because he always struggles after that, which is not happening, or he gets injured. That's it.
mm,
That's it. He's just
yeah,
like, even if he goes on a run of 3 games without scoring, it
yeah,
doesn't matter. They're going to win the league.
yeah,
They're too good. He's too good, and that's it really. So, oh yeah,
yeah.
no, I'm glad. I'm
Very
glad you
much
said
so.
that, Rich,
Yeah,
because I seem to be a
yeah.
a
In the
minority
minority.
voice in terms of the people. In terms of the people
No, no. I
I'm
mean, he is.
following
Is an
anyway.
I'd rather sell. I'd rather sell Palmer to fund Haaland. I mean, this is all about funding Haaland,
Yeah, of
right? So,
course. Yeah,
I'd rather sell Palmer. I think Palmer is. You obviously keep Palmer for the 2 plum fixtures in 27-28. You hopefully go into 29 with a couple of transfers, and you can move things around there and get Haaland in for that if that's what you want to do. However, Haaland did not start the game last night with
no.
Real Madrid and is now an injury doubt of some sort for the weekend, I believe. So
He was on the bench, wasn't he? Which is
yeah,
strange. I do wonder whether it was sort of mind games for Liverpool, as in, oh, he's on the bench, he's ready. We're just not going to use him, but really he is injured. I'm not really sure, but yeah, interesting. So
yeah,
in terms of the coming weeks, obviously this is all leading up now to this big blank game in 29, and I think that a week or two ago, we were all sort of pretty set on saying, right, we can sail through 29 pretty easily enough. As we know, FPL does have this habit of kicking us here, there, and everywhere in every bollock we've got,
yeah,
and it's I think for me with the transfers I've got, I'm probably a bit fine. I think things may have changed for you potentially a touch, Rich, in terms of what is the cusp of of
yes,
playing players and injuries and transfers.
yeah.
And Ollie Poole, our editor, is probably a prime example there. Rich, you just want to touch on Ollie's dilemma on how his team
Yeah,
has changed
Ollie,
the
we
last
had a
couple of
few
weeks.
messages with Ollie going back and forward today. Ollie, I believe he's a Gakpo owner like me, but he also owns Ahmad, who's unfortunately out for the season. And I think if I'm right, I think he's got about 7 blankers in game week 29. So I would say he's right on the bubble for
And
whether or not
and
he might free
and he's
hit.
on Emery as well, I think, isn't he?
And he's on Emery. So he's on Emery. He's got a week left, like me, of the assistant manager chip. There's a huge temptation if you haven't played your assistant manager chip to chase table bonus and really try and maximise out on the chip, unless of course you like playing it safe like you do, mate, with your slots and your Artetas and stuff. But once you get the bug for this table bonus
Mission,
thing,
mission reposition
quite
only.
addictive to rush. So you're gonna, but it costs a transfer. So a precious transfer to bring in another manager this week, and it's really punty this week. We'll get onto the candidates in a minute. That's going to push Ollie, if we're using him as our test case, into potentially 9. Well, one less transfer between now and 29, and about 4 or 5 people that he needs to move on. So he's going to be taking hits going into game week 29, or he's going to say if anything gets any worse, anyone else gets injured who he needs, he's going to be forced into free hitting. So it's a real predicament for managers, and I'm sure there are people out there with 3, 4, 5 blankers are going to sail through. If they've got a pocket full of transfers like you, it's not going to be a problem. But if you are on 7 or 8 or 9 people who are not available for game week 29, then it's a different conversation.
So, what is your thoughts currently, Rich? Because you're probably in a spot by the sound of it where you you're chasing and I'm only saying this because I'm always in this spot normally, so I know exactly how it feels. You're chasing your tail every week to get half decent sort of team out and just
Yeah,
maintain a decent 11, cover the high
yeah,
yo players and whatever else.
yeah.
How are you currently feeling towards free hitting in 29? Is it
At the
back on the
moment,
menu?
at the moment, I'd like to try and get through it. If I don't move the manager, I have exactly 4 transfers between now and game week 29, and I have to move 4 guys out.
Yeah,
So that there's no contingency, there's no slack there. If I
yeah,
get a couple of injuries between now and then, and remember, there's 4 game weeks to get through yet. 3 more game weeks, and some European football and FA Cup football. So the chances I'm going to get an injury in those 7 matches are quite high. But it could be an injury to a player I bring in. So really, it's like I'm expecting something to go wrong. That's a curveball to come in from somewhere in the next month or so that I've got to get through. But I'd like to go into it thinking I can get through it. And so really the safe thing to do, and if I had a higher rank, I would literally do the safe thing and just save my transfer this week because the rest of my team is all right. But I also feel like I've got to do something in the next few weeks to get my rank up. So I've got to chase the table bonus perhaps and have a shot at this last manager upside. Also, I could improve the team by moving out one of my players I want to lose, like a Rodgers or Gakpo this week, and bring in a striker who plays 29 or a midfielder player who plays 29 and has good fixtures, that kind of thing. So I may make a single transfer, but I could take a hit. I really don't know what I'm going to do. I could do anything on that spectrum, from saving, punting the manager, taking a hit. I'm all over the place.
You don't think just sort of one -8 just to put you in a decent spot is worth it? Again, I'm speaking from experience.
I don't know about a -8. I don't think it's that bad. I think I'd rather take the -8 if I'm going into 29 and the hits are cheap, if you like, so because I'm getting some appearance points for them or something. But at the moment, I'm not. It's not like I'm playing a Greaves or
of course,
Dobbin or whatever, and Dibbling, sorry, and so I think it's all right for this week. But I get what you're saying. I think there's going to be a hit down the line.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting few weeks, as as you say, with the trend, the way it's been going this season, with injuries for most teams, right? Like a lot of teams have been decimated. There will likely be more because the football isn't stopping. If anything, it's getting worse now because you still got the FA Cup next weekend, which people are going to play stronger teams. There's teams like Man City, for example, as well, who are now out of the other cup, so they're likely going to, I expect, play full strength in that. There's also teams like Villa, Liverpool, wherever else who've had a break from Europe for a few weeks, and that's starting next week as well. It's just never ending. So yeah, you can sense the injuries, can't you? And it's about who keeps their cool, which we know really good
I think so, and I think transfers are extremely precious. So moving a player who has a fixture out in 29 for a player you fancy a bit more, I mean, that feels really luxe, doesn't it? It feels, it feels like you've got to get at least keep your players who have a fixture in 29 until then, or until that week when you maybe will swap them around if you have the luxury of a few moves. I mean, how are you feeling? Are you feeling like you are swaggering around thinking you can do anything you like?
I hate to be Mr. Smug, right? But I'm just gonna give myself a moment and be like, I am loving life. I want injuries because I'm speaking from a very personal perspective now. The more injuries, the better for me, because I've got a full squad of playing players apart from Fabianski. I've got 4 transfers. And you said those luxury moves. That's exactly what I can do. Over these next few weeks, afford to get any team I want for 29.
You could sort of do Semenyo to Cliver or something like that.
Semenyo to Cliver,
like throwaway like that.
Just because. No, sorry, I do apologize for my smugness, but I've got a plan. I think, which I'll run through in more detail later, but I can I can afford to make the moves I want to make rather than make the hygiene moves that you have to sort of make this week. So I think I'm going to be fine with 29, and I'm hoping that the fact that I've got the transfer saved and got a good team, got Chris Wood, is going to just keep holding me instead, and it's nice because for the last probably 4 seasons, Rich, I've never been in this position. So I'm taking 4 seasons worth of angst and just sitting here with my cocktail looking down at all the peasants going, feel my grapes, bitches. And I'm not, but I am. No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. Yeah. But no, I think I think holding the transfers back while I've had an incredible amount of luck has put me in a good spot. So yeah, feeling good and really excited for the next few weeks. We've got a plan to bring in some pretty exciting. Well, I think exciting players. You won't. one of them's Nkunku. We'll see how that goes.
Okay, well that's made me feel a bit better anyway.
Because you know you're going to gain on me there somewhere. No, we will see how it plays out. Looking at transfer targets and for the coming weeks, obviously again it depends largely on whether you got the transfers to sort of make or not. The players you've got on screen, Rich, you've got Cunha, who got a really nice game in 29. They've got a really lovely run of fixtures from next. You could bring him in this week. He looks on form, doesn't he? Goodness me, what a footballer he is.
Like Cunha, I think you could move for him this week. Gakpo will be the sacrifice for many. I think he is at least a doubt going into the weekend. I think Slot said today he's going to be, what was the word, touch and go or whatever. Sounds more like Sean Dyche, but he said he's going to be a late decision on whether he makes the squad for City. So Gakpo with City, doubt for City, blank 29. You could hold Gakpo for 28, but Southampton. But I think Cunha certainly next week looks like a really nice one to move for with their run of home games. I wouldn't necessarily rush to get him in away to Bournemouth because a lot of people are fancying Bournemouth for that fixture. But I really like Cunha for the medium term. I think we've also got Dango on here. We could have any Bournemouth mid on, but we featured Clivert and Semenyo in recent weeks, so Dango gets his time on the chart here. Right in the front there, Nwaneri, 4.5 million.
Insane.
Great asset.
Insane.
Return for those who bought him in as an enabler last week. A lot of people got him in to enable Watkins last week, and that really worked out on both counts. He looks fairly safe. The only worry I have about Nwaneri is maybe Martinelli or Saka coming back a bit early and possibly limiting his minutes. He's really just got to get through the blank. I think if you're buying him now, there's a slight risk he might not play in 29. But
mate.
He's
a star, and I think Sterling will be first to leave the team.
Yeah, he's ahead of Sterling.
And I can't see Saka being back in the next few weeks personally. I mean, he might do, but he's not going to go from straight to 90. And they've got Champions League as well, so I think Nwaneri's earned his place. It's sort of his. His
I mean, a lot of people look at moving Rodgers on, and it's a nice fixture this week at home to West Ham to bring him in. So Nwaneri definitely on the watch list. If you don't fancy Cunha, then you've got a couple of strikers on the right hand side of this diagram. I think you put Mateta in. I think I said to you, go for Marmoush, but you do like Mateta, don't you?
I did, but the real reason, don't tell anyone, Rich, we didn't have a Marmoush image, which is why don't tell anyone. But that's why I put Mateta in.
Pike. Yeah, okay. Oh, right, okay. So, you could have Marmoush or you could have Mateta.
Yeah.
Mateta is the sort of luxury transfer that you could do by bringing in a player who blanks in 29. Even now, Fergie, you got so many transfers. Incredible.
What I might do, Rich, I might bring Mateta in, right?
Yeah. And then sell him and
then use another transfer and then put him back. So I'm using 3 transfers to bring in one.
Perfect. That's really showing off, isn't it? That's fantastic.
Sorry, mate. I will stop. I will stop with all these shenanigans. But I got to have a moment.
Yeah. I mean, people are buying Marmoush, right? Because there is this slight scare over Haaland.
Yeah.
Marmoush, I believe, one of my ultras has indicated to me that he knows a bit about Marmoush, and he has played a lot as a striker in his previous leagues and stuff. So he could be the new Alvarez, Marmoush.
I think Marmoush should be in for me in 29. I think. Not sure.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard. You've got to mess about. Even if you've got a load of transfers, you've got to mess the team around to get Haaland in. So Marmoush makes a nice position, but most people will probably be happy with a couple of their strikers. Like you're very happy with Wood. You're very happy with Isak.
I'll be happy with Cunha as well. This is the thing.
Yeah, well, you've only got one spot. Yeah. So, is it going to be Cunha? Is it going to be Marmoush? Is it going to be Wissa? Who's it going to be? Most people have only got maybe one one transfer in those forward positions. So that's wide open. So maybe the Liverpool game is a bit of an audition for Marmoush this week,
Good
and
show. Good show.
that'll give you time to get an image of him for next week.
I think it's done now. I think it's fixed now. But yeah.
Fair enough.
Good stuff. We've had quite a lot of questions about the. Oh, actually, just firstly, just to touch on predicted points for the next 4 game weeks. This does include the blank in 29. Parma is top. There's been a lot of Parma sales. I don't get it.
Ahead of Southampton, Leicester.
Well, they got Villa away this week, which is pretty good offensive fixture because Villa never keep clean sheets. And then they're home to Southampton, home to Leicester. I mean, you're going to want Parma. He's going to be, I'm guessing, heavily captained potentially in one, if not both of those weeks. Oh, well, he won't in 28 because Liverpool are home to Southampton 28. But, you know, would you really bet against Parma getting 3 to 4 returns over those 2 fixtures?
No.
Haaland is second.
I might do the captain next week on Parma.
Haaland is second, 26.7 points. Then Salah. Then Dango. Look how high up Dango is now. He's the pick of the Bournemouth mids, purely on points. That's nothing to do with price. Look who's 5th, Rich. Christopher Nkunku is 5th in the projected.
Are you sure you haven't been manipulating the sliders there?
I got my biro out and scrubbed someone out. But Nkunku, and it's all based on minutes, right, and fixtures. So if Nkunku starts and plays reasonable minutes, I think we got him with like 70 odd minutes, right, in both those fixtures. Just can't see how he doesn't get points. Home to Southampton, home to Leicester. He's got quality around him. You said last week he scored hat tricks in the Conference League. I just like him, and at the moment, I'm looking for a way to bring him in for next week, not for this week, for next week. He'll be on all the thumbnails next week. When he scores against Villa this week, he'll be on all the thumbnails. He will be on all the thumbnails. I'm telling you.
I don't think he didn't have a shot last week, did he, in the whole game?
Yeah, but I didn't say to bring him in last week. I said, get this guy on your radar.
Okay,
anyway.
buddy.
Foden.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's one less transfer for you, or no, 2 if you transfer him out again.
Well, it depends, because I'll have a packed 5 midfield, so it does depend. Foden and Son around 22 points, and then Buemo, Odegaard, Cunha, Semenyo, Trossard, Wood, all these players we talked about for ages. Interesting that Dango's gone a couple of points clear of...
Dango's well ahead of Kluivert.
He's well ahead of Kluivert. He's three points ahead. Kluivert's minutes dipped because he came off for Tavernier, and Kluivert's minutes over the season, if you look, he tends to come off around the 70-odd minute mark, and he's the one who came off. So at the moment... Semenyo's a 90-minute man, definitely. Dango looks like he's a 90-minute man as well. So I think that's the reason for the drop-off there. So just something to think about there. Assistant manager for Game Week 22. We've had a lot of questions about this in the chat. And we've got the Fantasy Football Hub predicted points for Game Week 26 up now. It is dynamic. It's completely real-time and up to date. And the top at the moment predicted to score 8.6 points is Arteta. That is home to West Ham. You've got Glasner at Palace, 8.3. Van Nistelrooy at Leicester. So obviously those ones are taking into account potential table bonus as well. Juric, Southampton, Areola at Bournemouth, McKenna at Ipswich, and Howe, Newcastle. And FPL Heisenberg on Twitter, if you don't follow on X, make sure you do. He picked out the potential table bonus assistant managers, which is Van Nistelrooy, Potter against Arsenal, Pereira against Bournemouth, McKenna against Spurs, Juric against Brighton, and Glasner against Palace. But he feels they all seem terrible options. So got a three-pronged question for you, Rich.
Okay.
Well, 2. I suppose 2, because if you haven't played it, you're not going to play it this week, right? If you're on the Moyes Emery train, or if you're on the slot train, what do you do in both scenarios this week?
Okay. I think I've always thought the slot pick was a good pick if you're high in the ranks. So if you're happy with your rank position, and you're it hasn't gone badly. Yes, there's been some beef between the Moyes owners and the slot owners and that sort of stuff, but that's just a bit of banter, right? It hasn't gone badly. You've got, I believe you've got 28.
There was an 8-point difference. And if you minus off the transfer, used,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
roughly level. Maybe more.
But you haven't. What's I think most slot owners will be feeling like they want to have a go at table bonus just the once before they sign off. Right? You've had it nice and safe. 2 Liverpool doubles, couple of wins, couple of draws, good points. But now you want a punt, right? You want a punt before you say goodbye to this chip before next season.
Me into shit, I'm going for a Kunku next week, for God's sake.
Be feeling like this, right? So whereas I've come from the opposite, I've had 2 table bonus punts, got a draw in both of them. I'm ahead on points versus the slot owners, albeit having used a transfer. But look at me, I've got no transfers, right? I've got to use a transfer, one of my precious transfers, guarantee at least 1 hit before game week 29, and pay quite a heavy price to punt it again. However, if you look at some of the percentages, and I picked this tweet up, I think from FPL Calais on Twitter. Glasner, just taking that as an example, has a 26% chance of 18 plus points next week, a 54% chance of 9 plus points, and a 46% chance of blanking. Yeah. So that says to me, it's probably worth a transfer to punt that and see if that comes off. Now you could, I totally agree. Fulham are a great side at home, but if Palace won that game 2-1 or nicked it 1-0, and you were looking at the results at 5 o'clock on a Saturday, you wouldn't bat an eyelid, would you? You just say, "Oh, Palace beat Fulham, yeah. So what? What am I doing now?" It's not like, most people who've taken on the table bonus have taken on Liverpool twice. It's far more likely that Palace beat Fulham than it was that Villa would beat Liverpool or Everton would beat Liverpool, isn't it?
It is, but I just can't get away from, if you were to look at Palace odds now, I haven't looked, but Palace odds of winning away at Fulham, I'm guessing would be about 3-1, say. You're going massively against the odds. That's been my running theme through all this, is that if you were to place a bet,
you're more likely to lose.
You're more likely to lose, and you're 2/3 likely to. Well, no, you're 75% likely to 3-1 to lose there. I think. Yeah. But I just don't understand this obsession with trying to chase just an extra couple of points and ending up with nothing. It seems crazy.
But it's all about how you. I guess it's all about how you look at it.
It is
those 18 points for that win, right, are only going to be available. Let's say to me one more time this season. Okay. And the rest of the season, I've got to do it with players. I've got to do it with the players on the pitch and what they do. I've got one chance to turn. Just my last week of the assistant manager has the potential to be as good as a well-played triple captainship, doesn't it? If you think about it like that,
I do.
Why am I not going for it with a free transfer? It doesn't even cost me a hit straight away. It will do down the line.
Because you go to Arteta and.
I can't. Not without getting the money. I can't afford it.
Sorry, yeah, of course, yeah, okay. That's a good point. That is a good point. Yeah. So So
if I could maybe go to Arteta, who's got the highest chance of winning, like slot owners can go sideways to Arteta. That's fine. Okay. I agree, that's a decent move, but I've got to stick with the price band, and so I can go Emery to Glasner, for instance, or I've got 0.3, so I could go to a 1.1 manager, but actually. There aren't many of those anyway, so basically, I could do it. You've got to stay within within the price.
That's the big thing for the Emery, and again, this is something which is not factored in. This we've won 36 versus 28.
Yeah,
it's the butterfly.
I wouldn't have been on. If I had the money and I had the Liverpool slot, I would have gone slot.
It's the butterfly effect of all these things now as well. That you've. If you want to get to the manager you want to get to this week, you've got to take a hit. If you go to Arteta, and if you want to go for a lesser manager, which you're talking about, go for the goal bonus. I mean, if it hits, great, right? But the odds are massively against that happening. If it doesn't hit, which is more likely because the odds are against, and people go for Arteta because they're on slot, they can afford the straight switch. All of a sudden, it's vice versa, and it's just. This, I don't understand it. Sorry, I'm not talking about what you were talking about then. I'm thinking more about the the kind of stuff I've seen on social media about all this and other content and stuff. Is that people think because they 36 versus 28 that they've won, and they haven't. It's like they just haven't. It's like, and I'm not saying that as a jealous slot owner at all. I'm saying it as a person who thinks through the whole life cycle of these chips and understanding the butterfly effects that the knock-on effects of these things have.
In the bigger picture of things, I'm very surprised that the Moyes Emery route has come out slightly ahead on points.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised about it, and pleasantly surprised. But it hasn't resulted in huge rank gains yet. I think the icing on the cake, and when we bring the spathometer out after we've finished, I think really to truly say it's a smashed it, I've got to get some table bonus in the final week.
That's fair. That's interesting.
And that's how it feels. So, I mean, not everyone's going to feel like this. You could say, well, you've done all right, just consolidate. Villa will probably beat Chelsea. I asked Adam Hopcroft if he thought they win. He thinks if Konsa plays, they've got a very good chance. I don't know what Konsa's injury status is, but Chelsea are not great, and Villa look like they could easily knock Chelsea over at the weekend.
Mate, if I were you, I think a couple have put in the chat. Man has put, us Moyes Emery owners have done okay. No need to switch. Leave it on Emery. Save the transfer. Glasner may not work out, and that's absolutely right. You need your transfer, Rich, ahead of a massive 3-1 shot.
Yeah,
you're spending money on an outside bet.
I know, and I'm not a betting. I don't bet regularly, so I'm not used to You have more idea about how risky a 3-1 shot is to me. 3-1 seems quite low odds to me.
No, I think I know it's. I think even money, mate, is about even money to me is where you start thinking about if anyone's odds against, it means the odds are it's against it happening. 3-1 is like if it happens, it's almost a surprise. So the one I'm interested in. And Big Tips has just mentioned it there, actually. If I was to go for a punt, if I was you, or if I was whoever, and no one seems to have mentioned it yet, but I think Ipswich have got a hell of a chance of beating Spurs.
Yeah.
They've beaten them away already this season. Ipswich, they held Villa last week away from home on a 1-1 against an 11-man Villa. Spurs are so unpredictable, it's ridiculous. They still haven't got the defence. Vicario is back, which makes a difference. He would be my punt. If I was to go for a punt, I would be all over him because I just think that Ipswich look good. They're going to concede, right? But Spurs. Oh, well, I say that they defended, and the keeper last week, their reserve keeper, Armour, was fantastic last week. That would be the punt I'd go for. Spurs are so unpredictable, like the most unpredictable team in the league, right? So that'd be the one I would go for. Half a million. Yeah. What about slot owners? So if you were on slot now, what would you? And I know it depends.
If I was on slot and I'd had to, I would move it, and I would, especially if you have a pocket full of transfers like you do, I would spend one of those transfers and move the manager to a higher probability win. Like you're going well, so Arteta, nice easy 8 to 10 pointer for you against West Ham. Would probably be where I'd go. No issue to raise funds. You can just sideways move into that. I wouldn't necessarily pump for table bonus, but some people will. They'll fancy that they haven't really maximised the chip if they don't try for table bonus at least once out of the three. And I think that we always said we'd learn from this chip, didn't we? As it's played, and initially we wanted to sit back and see how the first few weeks went. And I think one of the learnings from this chip for people that play it in future, and we'll probably be able to ignore it for 3 or 4 weeks after this. Yeah. But when it comes back into the radar around game week 31 to 33, I would say it's a gambling chip. That's what it is, and you basically place your bets and you sit back and you enjoy the ride. And the learning is don't be afraid to go for table bonus, and in fact, really seek out that table bonus upside across the fixtures. And I think a few weeks ago we showed that rather complex diagram that showed that where the win odds were greater than 30%, that's where you should go for table bonus. Like there was that fixture last week when Fulham played Forest. I think their win percentage was 46%, and they won the game. And Silva got 18 points, and that's the sort of mathematical clue you
I
want
would
to take from the booking odds?
I would just add on to that from a personal perspective. I think you can go for punts definitely when the team is at home. This is a personal thing, and it's a double game week because Villa and Ipswich. We got nothing from that, right? It was the Liverpool game. It was that table
That was the
bonus
banker,
game.
yeah.
It was the
Yeah.
table bonus game, and the same with Everton. They were home, and that was a table bonus game. So I would personally add the caveats onto there. I think in a single game week, I'm not sure that it's worth it because again, over 2 games, the odds on Everton putting in a good performance and doing something and Villa are higher than in one game. In one game, when the odds are against, which they are most of the time when you're chasing the table bonus, it's unlikely it's going to happen. So, but anyway, I think we've talked enough about that. But
it's a tough decision to make, and I may end up doing absolutely nothing this week and leaving everything as it is because the transfer is really precious.
Do you think there's leaving it on slot away to Man City is a viable option?
I think it is if you're really, if you're in a transfer predicament. I think the key thing is if your team has 3, 4, 5, even 6 blankers, and you've got 2+ transfers, I think you can move it.
Yeah.
A bit like me saying you've got the transfers to get Watkins last week. I think if you've got the transfers to play the upside, play the upside. Otherwise, City are very likely to at least get a result in that game, I would say. So you're looking at 3 or 4 points from slot. I think you can do better than that if you move it.
I think I'm going to stay missionary and go to Arteta. I think we'll touch on that when we get to our teams a bit later. Best game week captain this week, one of the most wide open ones we have seen for a while. Salah is top of the poll away to Man City, which just shows the season the guy is having. He's 36%.
He's having.
And Buemo away to Leicester is second, actually, joint with Kluivert home to Wolves. And then we've got Isak. And Hub predicted points. It predicts Salah top again, 7.1 points. It's away to Man City. That's the season he's having, and Man City obviously having defensively as well. And it's very close with Isak, Palmer, Haaland into second. But what's your thoughts on captaincy this week, Rich? Because it is a tough one.
It's a real tough one. It is an opportunity to go against it. I think a lot of people have said that this week. However, you are still going to be taking on the horde if you take on the 70+ overall ownership on Salah. I still think his effective ownership will be up 120 to 140%, and I can't see myself not giving him the armband, even though it's a City game. I can see that being like a 2-2 draw.
I think it's got 2. So I can have a bet on that.
Still have a game, a goal and an assist there. And it'll be a good game, it'll be very entertaining on Sunday afternoon. But he just seems to be relentless in Liverpool's X penalties is ridiculous. They seem to get a penalty every other game, and from open play, he's still incredibly effective. I do think you could go quite like Mbeumo away to Leicester. I think that's a nice way to go against it. He's been quite quiet in the last couple of weeks, but
1 goal in 5.
He's got some good games coming up. And Isak, I'd be more bullish on Isak as an alternative. He's my vice captain at the moment, but just Newcastle looked a bit wobbly since they got to the final, didn't they? So I just think for the consistency, I'm just going to keep it on Salah personally.
Yeah, same. I'm probably going to go Salah and Mbeumo vice. I think only 1 goal and no assists in the last 5 for Mbeumo. This is what happened to him last time, and then he kicked on and got 4 returns in 4.
Yes, I think I sold him after a quiet spell, and then he got a few 19 pointers while I didn't own him.
I think that's the thing. And interesting then as well, the captaincy obviously for midweek for Gameweek 27, so we're not going to pod before then, but predicted points, Cole Palmer comes out top 8.7, very, very high. Salah is second, 7.8, Haaland 6.8, and Kunku 6.4. But where's your captaincy lying in Game Week 27?
I think I'm probably more likely to, against a team like Southampton, I think I'm more likely to try it on Palmer for that. I'm going to watch the Villa game with interest because Chelsea's performances have been a bit woeful recently, particularly the Brighton games. And if they get beaten by Villa, I'll be probably just keep it on Salah for the Newcastle game. However, if they show some improvement, then I may well go Palmer against Southampton. What do you think about that one? I think that one's a lot more of a. There's more of a gap there, isn't there, between the expected points?
I think you got to go Palmer on this one. I just think Southampton are just so bad. I know Palmer has done an awful lot recently, but this is the kind of game that can really kickstart it. I just can't see anything except Chelsea 3+ goals in this game. I'm probably the same against Leicester as well.
I mean, I do think as well. The game will feel a bit like it's on rails a bit. For the next few weeks with people going for 29. So differentiating the captain is a chance to gain. And I'm still chasing, still a long way back, and having a different captain is what we need.
What his ownership is? So a quick look at Palmer's ownership. Still 63%. Yeah, obviously, a lot of that would be dead managers as well. But I know a lot of engaged managers have sold him. We had a kind of EO Wildcard 100% this week. So let's just hope we can hold on to him for another week. Let's hope he does something against Villa. Let's hope Nkunku starts against Villa, and then I'll stop saying Nkunku for a while. But yeah, I think at the moment I will be on Palmer as well. The HubAI Game Week 26 wildcard team. We just want to have a quick look at this because it does chuck out some clues. This does look at the next 4 to 5 game weeks. Kepa and Joe Jensen rotating. Looking at the rotation is pretty good actually. Joe Jensen obviously now only 4.2. You'll have the home games against Southampton, Leicester in 27 and 28. Nice. Gabriel, Timber, and Trent. So it has gone for double Arsenal defense. Just looking at the Arsenal defensive stats, just really likes it. And then 2 Leicester, 4 million, just getting all the money on the pitch. Leicester do play in 29 though, obviously as well. So that they are. It is taking that into account. Midfield of Salah, Palmer, Dango, Semenyo. No argument with them, and then Nkunku on the bench to come in next week, I'm guessing. And then Isak, Visser, and Cunha up front, which is very hard to argue against. So again, no one's wild card in this team, right? But it has chucked up a couple of players there, which I find particularly interesting, especially Cunha.
I'm surprised it hasn't chucked in some City assets at this stage. Is that because it doesn't like the Liverpool game?
What it could potentially do. So it's a solver that works on 5 weeks. So what it's potentially doing, it could in 29 move out Isak to Marmoush, for example, or it could even have a plan to take out Palmer and someone and bring Haaland in 29 because it obviously is 3 game weeks away. That is. So the solver does have a plan for it. So maybe it's got that in mind. But,
and I mean, if I was doing a kind of human wild card, I'd probably get Gvardiol in at this stage rather than the double Arsenal defence. Wouldn't go Haaland. I might punt Marmoush for funds and do something like that.
I'm not sure we get him now though. This is the thing. I think 29 and 30, fantastic fixtures. Home to Brighton, home to Leicester, but they got tough games up until then. Liverpool, Newcastle is it as well maybe, or
Forest,
and Spurs. They got Spurs.
Spurs.
Not massively easy games, but
no. Interesting.
We'll see. Interesting stuff. Fergie,
I like Cunha though. Definitely. Cunha.
Yeah, he's in for me next week, I think. Fergie's a punt for game week 26 and 27. I've picked a 1 week punt actually this week. Just because I would just smash it on Nkunku every time for next week on Nkunku. He was last week. It is next week on Nkunku. I've gone for a 1 week punt this week. Again, it's someone who doesn't normally play in the position he's in. He got a plum home fixture this week at home. He's a fantastic player. Got a return last week. He's only playing in this position up front because of injuries elsewhere. But he plays for a top team. And I think this week, if I was going for a 1 week punt, which I've considered, I've contemplated, Rich. I'm so big on Nkunku. I've contemplated taking a 1 week punt this week and then going straight to Nkunku next week. But I need to be sent. Look, you're shaking your head. I'll probably be bringing it to Bournemouth mid instead.
Transfers.
Like just like, is it like that? Just like that. But I probably won't. But if I was taking a punt this week, I would go for Leandro Trossard, who will very likely be playing number 9 up front again, as he was last week. And then when Sterling went off, he moved over to the left-hand side of it and got the assist in the for Marino. But I like Trossard this week against West Ham. I think he's a fabulous player. And yeah, I really, I really fancy him to do well this week. I think it's a 1 week punt. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of like a goal and assist or goal or a couple of assists or something this week. So I think it's a pure 1 week punt. We're doing it, but I wouldn't be holding on to him. He does play in 29 as well. There's also obviously Marino, the star from last week, who I expect to have a similar, not a similar impact as last week, but I expect him to come on probably the same as last week and take the 9 spot at front and Trossard to go on to the left. But obviously 2 very smart finishes, but absolutely not enough to give him that number 9 spot. I don't think, not unless someone like Sterling gets injured beforehand or something, when they basically force in their hand. But
I'm not sure Sterling will start the game. I think he was so poor that.
Well, if he doesn't, Marino has got a chance of starting up front, right? He's fit. Yeah. He's fit. Nawiri on the right, Trossard on the left, Odegaard in the middle, and then him up front. But we will see. Interesting stuff. JH says, I'm getting Dango and Trossard this week. Nice. Interesting stuff. Nice. Let's have a look at our teams, Rich, as we head into game week 26. You've got a nice team rating, 95%, Rich. Nothing wrong with that at all. You've got a good team.
Nothing wrong with it. It's fine. I have most of the essentials in place. Cliver is already in. I'm thinking of doubling up on the Bournemouth midfield. So I think you'll see from my AI transfer recommendation in a minute that I may take Rodgers out. But I think based on Chelsea's form, my lack of bullishness on Nkunku, that I don't mind keeping Rodgers for this fixture. Villa are a better beast at home, although he hasn't done very much. He's had a huge amount of chances in recent weeks to have really exploded. So Rodgers could be the position that is moved. Gakpo will go to the bench as he's extreme doubt for the game with Manchester City. So Jimenez will get the Palace game. That's probably why I put Munoz on the bench, although I might start Munoz ahead of Lewis Hall. I'm not sure about that one. It's very close between them, but normally in this sort of situation, I go with the home. I mean, Mikalenko could be given the game, and they're playing Man United, who, despite Man United's awful form, you still wouldn't put them past scoring at Everton, would you? I mean, would you play Mikalenko?
I don't
got Pickford in goal.
Wouldn't double up
on Everton defence.
No, I wouldn't double up. I'd play Hall.
No.
I'd play Hall of the three. I think Fulham score. I think Forest probably score, but I think Hall is just.
You think I got it right there?
I personally think so. I've got a similar Boggle on my side, which we'll touch when we get to mine. But it's looking really strong. Very good.
It's a nice team. It doesn't need a transfer, hence the enthusiasm for the Glasner punt earlier. Yeah. Although I did hear you on the McKenna. Certainly, there's not much between them when you look at the actual win odds for even the Van Nistelrooy, McKenna, and Glasner options. There's only 1% between all three of them, I think, or 2% between all three of them. So it's really about gut feel. I think it comes
just like I like the unpredictability of Spurs. You don't know who you're going to get. That feels much more of a coin toss to me. Yeah. Whereas Fulham are a bloody good team who've played well all season. They're consistently good. That to me is just the difference. Where
especially at home, and as I have Jimenez as well, I think it's hard to bet against them. Jimenez is actually, I'm really pleased I've kept him. Actually, he's back to his best, I think. So he's looking really good. Yeah, so it's a tough one on the assistant manager, and actually doing nothing, saving, and having 2 free transfers next week is also good.
Nothing wrong with your team, Rich. And I think Emery actually that Emery one is not too bad. I'm guessing again from the odds that Villa are probably roughly maybe a shade of odds against, maybe even money to beat Chelsea at this point due to the form of the team. So I think it's all right. So
if you were me, you'd do nothing, would you?
I mean, you're banking on Villa beating Chelsea because you'll have Emery and Rodgers there. I like to hedge personally I don't like putting all my eggs in one basket.
So what does the AI suggest?
Well, let's have a look what the AI says. And
we don't just throw this show together.
Absolutely not. Rogers to Dango, which is obviously one move ahead. It releases 0.6 million, gets you another player for 29, gets you a midfield double up for a team scoring lots of goals and looking good. So yeah, I think that would be my move ahead of. And the reason is, Rich, I think that Emery has got a decent chance of decent points against Chelsea, but it doesn't move you more towards 29. This move moves you more towards 29, but it's that's the difference in the moves, I think.
Yeah, but I've still got upside with Dango.
Exactly that. I think that's where I'd use my transfer
over the next 6 weeks. I mean, Bournemouth suits any chip strategy, doesn't it? That's what I was saying.
Ridiculous. Their fixtures are insane. They got a nice home fixture in 29. Lovely home. I'm sure they got a beautiful fixture in 30 as well. So and that's also your optimized and also your aggressive transfer there, Rich. So very, very nice indeed. It just says Dango. It just goes Dango. You've got to go for it.
Dango. Yeah. Do it.
My team, 96%. Got 1.2 million in the bank. Obviously, got 1.5 in slot as well, which I need to remember for next week. Got Pickford, Gabriel, Trent. My dilemma at the back is Hall or Robinson, who's home to Palace. So again, at the moment, I think I'm on Hall, but I think Robinson home to Palace isn't bad either.
10 assists he's got this season.
Yeah, so I'm really a bit stuck there. I'm a bit more 50-50 than you, because you got Munoz, who's playing away, isn't he, at Fulham? Robinson home to Palace. I think it's got slightly more chance of a clean sheet. But yeah, really tough there.
God, you're benching João Pedro.
I don't think he starts, mate, to be honest. I think they've got
I know,
got a settled
what a shame, eh, with that fixture.
It is Salah, Palmer, Dango, Mbuemo and Rogers, and then Isak and Wood. And I just can't get away from it. Like, Wood away to Newcastle. How can I not play him? If he scores, he gets 3 bonus. It's just...
Well, he'll get one chance and it'll go in the back of the net, won't it? That's what happened
last week. But
so all he did last week, he only kicked the ball once, and it was a goal.
And they play each other, which is interesting. So I've got Isak against Wood. So what do I want there? I should play Robinson, because I want Isak and Wood both to score 2 each in a 2-2 draw.
Yeah.
But all on the bench.
Not a bad prediction. I do think Forest will score in that game. I mean, they score every week.
Agree. So, and then in terms of my transfers, my current thinking is I've got Slot. I think I'm going to do Slot to Arteta, even though I think Liverpool have got a good chance beating City. Apart from last night, apart from the Champions League, actually, City have definitely improved in the league. Battered Newcastle last week. It was complete demolition at home. And so I feel like while I think Liverpool might win, I just feel like I've got some safe points there with Arteta. And because I've got transfers in the bank, if I didn't have transfers, I'd probably leave it on Slot. But I think I'm going to go to Arteta. And I think I'm going to go Rogers to... I've had a look at the data. And I think I'm going to go Rogers to Semenyo this week instead of Kluivert, just because I think Kluivert start losing a few minutes. He's the one who tends to go off a bit early, regardless if he's on penalties. Both Dango and Semenyo's non-pen XG is better than Kluivert's, but Kluivert has got the all-important P, which as we know is mega important. So I think that's going to be my team. And then I think next week... when those funds are released, I think I'm going to go João Pedro straight to Cunha. And then it all depends, because I'll have a good midfield 5. I'll have a good midfield 5 next week. I would love to squeeze Nkunku in, but this is what I mean. I'm almost praying for an injury. For a double-edged thing, one, I want everyone else to start struggling and scrapping and having to play Greaves. But it gives me an opportunity to move on to Nkunku. So if I use those 2, I'll have 3 next week. So that's my loosest plan.
Apparently Gaza said Wood scored a hat-trick last season at St James.
It's happening, Rich.
There you go.
It's happening, Rich.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Yeah.
Superb.
He did as well, didn't he?
My recommended transfers. Would you believe Rogers to Nkunku? Straight away.
Recommending that.
You
fixed that, didn't you?
I didn't, mate. It's all down. I didn't. It's all down to minutes and stuff. But I just feel the Nkunku move is that he could not play at any point, whereas Semenyo, you've got the play, you've got the fixtures, you've got everything. So I'm going to have to do that. Yeah. And then because I've got 4, it's recommending me Wood. When it's Wood to Visser, Rogers to Semenyo, Hall to Timber, Fabianski to Joe Jensen. So that would be my mega aggressive, go for it sort of transfers. But yeah, I'm definitely not gonna go down that route. Don't need to at this point. I'm talking like I've got a 10k rank rate. I'm still 300 plus k. I mean, we're all talking like I've sown the season up, but I absolutely haven't.
So. Don't spaff those transfers.
I absolutely
you want to keep them for as long as you can.
I think I'll be getting Arteta and Semenyo this week, which we'll be happy with, and and then look for Cunha next week. So I'll be with that. Captain Salah, Captain Palmer in 27.
Perfect.
See what happens. That is it from us for this week. Goodness, that was Rich. I felt. Do you know what? I felt these last 3 podcasts we've had to talk about. Not had to. I know we enjoy it, right? But there's so much to talk about. Good. I've never known anything like it. My brain is fried thinking of all the different permutations and scenarios and wherever. It's just absolutely crazy.
It does seem FPL does seem incredibly hard work.
Goodness
you were
me.
grinding out the points. You both scored scored over 200 points the last 2 weeks and not really made a huge amount of headway, have we? It's like everyone else scored 200 points. It's like this is really tough. It's tough to get big gains.
Because they're all it's because they're all following the hub AI, mate. That's the problem. We've got all these
show and doing what we're doing.
Hundreds of thousands of members now, all making informed, insightful, data-driven decisions. So
exactly.
That's what it's all about. No. If you haven't signed up yet to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, top link below, 7-day free trial, 30% off. You will not regret it. But thank you so much to everyone who's joined us in the chat. Those going to watch it back, those listening on the podcast version, your support is very, very much appreciated. And Rich, thank you so much as usual. When can people get hold of you?
I'm on @Rich Clarke FPL on Blue Sky and Twitter.
Music Apogo in the chat says a brain will be even more fried when Nkunku gets dropped for Villa. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, if anything, it won't, because I'll be happy to let him go then. If he starts and scores, that's when I'm thinking, how do I get the bugger in? My handle on X and Blue Sky is @FFH_Fergi, and this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. We'd really appreciate it if you could just press like. And if you don't subscribe, make sure you do. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast. Leave us 5 stars. Leave a comment. We'll be back in 2 weeks because there's a midweek deadline next week. Looking forward to Game Week 28 in our 200th episode of The Green Arrow. In the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic couple of game weeks and may all your arrows be green. Good night all.